Hi, I'm Sayurita. I'm at my dining table, relishing today's dish. And you guessed it, today's dish is Haleem or Dalim as it's also called. Traditionally, Haleem is made by slow cooking daliya or broken wheat along with mutton and a whole lot of aromatics. For hours together, almost 12. At the end of it all, we get a homogeneous dish like this. The thing about Haleem is that it's usually only available during the month of Ramadan. And the only way to have it year round, whenever you want, is to learn to make it at home. I haven't slaved over this for 12 hours. With just a combination of pressure cooking and slow cooking, it's really not such a big deal. I think you'll enjoy it. Let's take you back to the kitchen so you can see how we made this. Haleem is basically a one-pot dish made with wheat and meat. Step 1. Prepping the grains. This one is spread across several hours. The wheat and the barley. These are the two grains we are going to use to make Haleem. This one is wheat with the outer skin removed. It's a bit hard to source and takes longer to cook. So you can use this parboiled broken wheat or daliya instead. We need to soak these grains for 8 to 10 hours. Since I'm making the Haleem tomorrow morning, I'm going to do the soaking now. In my experience, the grains take an inordinately long time to cook even after soaking overnight. So I have developed a couple of hacks, if I may call them that, to alleviate this problem. The first is to drop the grains in boiling water, let them simmer for a couple of minutes, then cover the pot and soak them overnight. This is the next morning. You can see the grain mixture has softened considerably. But just to make sure and hasten the process, I'm also going to pressure cook the grains for a little while. 2 whistles or 5 to 7 minutes after the pressure builds up. The grains will be cooked while I'm prepping the other ingredients, so it doesn't take any extra time. Moving right on to the rest of the ingredients. The main ingredient is mutton, of course. Choose tender meat from the shoulder in preference to the leg. Trim off the fat and cut into smaller pieces so they will cook quickly. I have used 1 kg of meat with bone and a quarter kg of boneless meat. Done this way, the mutton will need to be deboned after cooking. If you would rather not do that, you can use boneless mutton, about 750 to 800 grams, and 250 grams of mutton bones. The bones are essential to make a broth and for the gelatinous consistency of the Haleem. Coriander and mint leaves, coarsely chopped, garlic and ginger paste, sliced onion. This one is just for the broth. Ghee, used along the way in various stages. Green chilies, powdered seasonings, turmeric, chili powder, garam masala and salt of course. Whole spices, cinnamon, cardamom and cloves. Yogurt and milk. And hot water. Plus Birista or crispy fried onions. We need these for the dish and for garnish. On to the next step, to pressure cook the mutton. I'm going to use a saucepan to start with because my cooker is too tall and you will not be able to see properly over it. If you have a pressure cooker that allows direct cooking, just use that all through. Add some ghee, only about half a tablespoon, just to brown the onions and the meat. You can also use oil if you like. Toss until the onion is brown. It does not need to be fully cooked, so for about 2 to 4 minutes is just fine. The heat can be quite high, therefore. This is good. Now add the green chilies, maybe just 1 or 2, and some of the garlic and ginger paste. And the coriander and mint leaves. Finally, the mutton. Toss it until the pieces are brown all over for about 5 to 7 minutes. This is also a good time to keep 4 to 5 cups of water to boil. Then add the dry powders, turmeric, chili powder, and salt. As you can see, most of the mutton pieces have changed color now. It's time to pressure cook the meat. I'm going to have to transfer this mutton to a pressure cooker. If you're already using a pressure cooker, just continue on. You can also use an instant pot to do this. This is how the mutton looks now. Let's drop it into the cooker. We are going to need a lot of soup to make the haleem in the cooking process and also some for serving. Hence the large quantity, that is 4 to 5 cups of water. Pressure cook the meat for about 20 to 25 minutes after the pressure builds up. The mutton should be soft and you should be able to debone it easily when it's done. I'm going to make the birista while the mutton is cooking. There is plenty of time and nothing much else to do at this point. I'm going to use the same saucepan I used earlier, but washed. The link to the Birista video is right here and in the description box. I do not deep fry my onions. I find this method of making Birista much easier for most dishes. While I was at it, I also fried some cashews, also for garnish. The mutton is still in the cooker. I finished my Birista and the other garnishes. So I have a little time to have a cup of tea. In the meanwhile, if you are enjoying this video, do hit the like button and share it with your friends. Please subscribe to my channel so I can bring you more such content in the future. I'll see you in the kitchen shortly. Okay, the mutton is ready and I'm going to take it out, and as soon as it's cool enough to handle, I'm going to debone the good pieces and discard the bones and other cartilaginous pieces. Here it is, all done. And here are the bones and other debris. True meat eaters like myself may want to suck out the marrow and chew the soft bones. You can also drop the marrow in the haleem. Step 3. Bringing the meat and the wheat together. This is the main step where we make the haleem. I'm going to continue in the saucepan in which I made the birista. That's the broth on the right in the cooker. And here's the wheat barley mixture. It's nice and soft now. We will start by adding the ghee. I'm making this haleem without going overboard on the ghee. We will add more as and when necessary. If you want to make a richer haleem, you can add more ghee. The whole spices, cardamom, cinnamon and cloves. The remaining green chilies. And garlic and ginger paste. Fry for a minute or two until the garlic and ginger are nicely brown. I'm going to add the turmeric, but not the chili powder right now because I think my green chilies may be sufficient. I will add them later as needed. Add the deboned meat. As you can see, it is quite soft already. Perfect. The grains and the meat are both well cooked, so no pressure cooking. Yay! Toss to roast the mutton for about 3 to 5 minutes. Keep the heat on medium now. Scrape off any stuck-on stuff to prevent burning. About a cup of birista, reserving about half cup for the finishing step. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes in this phase so far. I'm going to add the salt. And now it's time to add the yogurt. I'm using thick store-bought yogurt. Add 2 to 3 tablespoons at a time, incorporate it and then add more. And that's all of it. Increase the heat. The garam masala. Add the remaining coriander and mint leaves, setting aside about half cup for the finishing. And the wheat and barley mixture. Reserve about a cup and a half of broth for serving. That will leave us about 3 to 3.5 cups for preparing the haleem. Keep adding it to the simmering pot as and when needed. Now I'm going to let it come to a nice boil, then cover and simmer for about 20 minutes to allow the flavors to blend. Monitor the haleem from time to time to make sure that it hasn't dried up. If it has, add the broth as needed. It has been 10 minutes now since we added the wheat. The meat and the wheat are well blended and we can add the warm milk now. Milk gives the haleem a creamy texture and softens the flavors without adding too much richness. I have a little bit of broth left, about half cup, and I'm going to leave that for the finishing. We still have 1.5 cups set aside for serving. That's a separate thing. 20 minutes later, the haleem is looking and smelling great. The texture is still grainy. It will need a lot of manual stirring and mashing to get a smoother consistency. Instead, I'm going to use a hand blender to do the job. Traditionally, during Ramadan, chefs start making haleem at 4 a.m. and it's only by 5:30 that it's ready. And 2 people are constantly stirring the whole thing at all times. This is not practical to do at home, of course. Hence the shortcuts, the pressure cooker and the hand blender. I have turned off the heat now to allow the haleem to cool so we can use the hand blender. This phase took us about 35 minutes. Not a lot of hard work, but mostly monitoring required. This is a good time while the haleem is cooling to taste and adjust the seasonings. It's been 20 minutes. I have cleaned the kitchen, made my raita and actually laid the table. Garam masala and chili powder and salt if needed before using the hand blender. Mix in some ghee. There you go. Okay, I'm going to add the rest of the broth. And that's going to help the blending process also. Everything is blended in now, and this is the correct consistency for haleem. On to the last step, the finishing. It must be done just about 10 minutes before serving. Keep the pot on a low flame again. Add milk or broth to loosen it, and if you don't have either, you can just use water. Now we're going to add in the remaining mint and coriander, the half cup of Birista. If you want, you can add more Birista. There is nothing like too much Birista in my book. This is a lot of haleem. It will easily serve 6 to 8 and even 10 people depending on their appetites. And it's done. Can't wait to eat it. The consistency is perfect, gelatinous, thick and smells heavenly. I've transferred it to my serving bowl and I've added just a little bit of hot broth to thin it down. Mix that in and garnish with our mixed herbs, Birista, fried cashews and drizzle some ghee over the top. All you need as an accompaniment is the raita and extra soup. Well, it's all gone, polished off while you were watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and will make it at home shortly. I have a whole playlist on mutton dishes that I think you will enjoy. Do check it out. It's right here. I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.